We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel, smash the like button, ring the notification bell, share the video if you want to support this national independent outpost, the rebel outpost of college football sickos like you. With a donation, help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that $ where you make your comment, and I'll get to you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. The incredible, edible Bill G sends out another 5 gifted memberships. We've got 5 new members to the family. Scotty Thrive Tribe, King Spleen, Rick Matos, I believe, Ken Stromness, BYU Cougar, and Susan Blur. Thanks for coming on in. I appreciate it. You are all been gifted a membership by Bill G. Thank you, Bill G, for your generosity once again. Thank you so very kindly. I appreciate it, all of you. And I mean all of you are knighted officially. Cloak and Dagger. And there's a lot of cloak and dagger stuff going on right now in college football. Once again, Now, for the 5 new members, you know how, a lot of you know how this works. You can go to our library of episodes, watch all the episodes, including members only early Pete Cloak and Dagger episodes where we sometimes drop a little bit of a nugget of information, and members are the first ones to hear it, and then we take it live in the next live show. Anyways, thank you, Bill G. Thank you for your incredible generosity as always. I'm very humbled, Bill G. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Look, the big breaking news today is that there is this internal Big Ten document, this 2014 playoff idea that is being spread around. It was leaked to ESPN. I wonder who leaked it. I don't know who leaked it. But I'm not gonna lash out and say it was somebody who's trying to stop the 2014 playoff idea. No, it might be the opposite this time. I don't know, but it might be the opposite. Look, the Army of 24, it's gaining traction, but we got to be honest here. This new 2014 concept is not the old 2014 playoff concept. It's not the same vision. I like the old better than the new. I like what Tony Petitti was fighting for before. I don't like this as much. However, I'm willing to go along with this. I am willing to back up Tony Petitti. Even though his knees buckled. And now the fat guy from Minnesota's knees are buckling under this table. It is a fig leaf. It is a peace pipe offer to the Southeastern Conference. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're going to soon learn what we're talking about here at the back end of the monologue. This is a compromise. This is Tony Petitti saying, okay, all right. Let's get this done. Let's get stability in college football. Peace for our times. Tony Petitti, the next Neville Chamberlain. But, Stephen Vitt says, get the committee out of this. They're incompetent. The tragedy of this fig leaf, the tragedy of this compromise is that it gives the committee all the power. It doesn't take the committee out. It gives them everything. It gives them more power than ever before. So why did Tony Petitti's knees buckle? I bet we're going to get a lot of answers in the chat room, on phone calls. I have a couple of strong beliefs on why Tony Petitti's knees buckled. Why the number 24 is ultimately more important than the 4-4-4-4-2-6. Because of this new iteration, the There is not going to be 4 AQs for the 4 power conferences. There's not even going to be championship games in your conference. You're not going to have a championship game. It's going to be strictly straight seeding. Well, not quite straight seeding. We'll get into more of that later. But it is going to be the top 24 ranked teams in the country making the playoffs. Or close to that. Top 23 plus 1. There has to be a G6 representative in the playoffs. And a lot of times in the top 24, there is a G6 team, or maybe more than one. But there's only going to be one auto bid for the G6. So people are calling it a 23 plus 1. Not a 4, 4, 4, 4, 2, 6. Not a 5 plus 11. Not a 5 plus 19. But a 23 plus 1. Or 1 plus 23, if you want to call it that. This is not what I would want. This is not what I want. But it might be something that we can get and live with. I think there is at least 4 reasons why Tony Petitti's knees buckled on this. Maybe one of them was the fact that the 4-4-4-4-2-6, it wasn't getting any love from, it wasn't getting any support, at least public support, from Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips. And the 4-4-4-4-2-6 for the Big 12 and the ACC is better than this 1 plus 23. But Tony Petitti wants the Southeastern Conference on board. He wants them on board for a playoff of 24. And we're going to get into all of it. Where I've had the great fortune of talking to a couple of people behind the curtain. And it's what we have alluded to before. The Big Ten has strong interest in this playoff to get to 24 teams. I think maybe some of it is vital interest. So, we're going to go through it. And then the question has to be asked. Southeastern Conference, the ball is in your court. 2014 playoffs, no AQs. Except for a G6. No AQs. The Big 12 is not going to get automatically 4. The Big 10 is not automatically going to get 4. The ACC is not going to get automatically 4. If the ACC gets poached, there ain't going to be, you don't have to figure out how many AQs they're going to get. No AQs. No AQs. This is what you wanted, Southeastern Conference. This is everything you wanted. You've got to tweak the metrics. More strength to schedule. This is everything you wanted. Sankey. So, let's do it. Let's go. This should be done tomorrow. This should be done. Why not? Oh, why not? Why not? You're going to get more teams than anybody else in the playoffs most years. You're going to have a whole lot of home games in Southeastern Conference stadiums Because in this 2014 playoff, in the first round, you're going to have seeds 9 through 16 get a first round home game on their campus. In the second round, it's going to be 1 through 8. That's going to help the Southeastern Conference more than anybody else. Correct? 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 Their communities, correct? Their communities, correct? Their boosters, correct? Their businesses, correct? Why would the Southeastern Conference not be for this? Might be a couple of reasons. One big one is they would have to get rid of their Southeastern Conference Championship game, and that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And would the expanded playoffs replace that? Remember, in this particular college football playoff media contract, and by the way, this is going to go on to 2031. Going from 12 to 16 or 16 to 24 or going from 12 to 24 doesn't change the length of this media contract. The SEC still going to get 29% of the proceeds, and the Big Ten is going to get 29% of the proceeds, 58% among the two conferences. Why aren't they jumping on this? We're going to get into that later in the show. I've got my strong ideas why they might even hesitate on this. Even though Tony Petitti put out a fig leaf, put out the old peace pipe. Tony Petitti smoking it. Ted Carter is smoking it. Everybody in the Big Ten is smoking it. Will Greg Sankey, will he inhale the peace smoke in his lungs? Or are there other forces? Olive branch, fig leaf. Olive branch. All right. I'm such a moron. Okay. We got some. We got a stack show today. So everybody, please be a little patient here. Be a little patient. I appreciate it. We've got a big show today on a Friday the 13th, February 13th. Fig leaf. MBM Super Chat. 24 teams is a lot, MBM says. It would be unprecedented. Logistics will be a nightmare, and the postseason travel for fans will be very pricey. Now, the postseason travel for fans, pricey, I get that. Yep, there's another round in the playoffs for the teams that are seeded 17 through 24. No question about it. If you get on a run, that is something to think about. Logistics will be a nightmare. You're going to have to fit in 8 playoff games in the first round, 8 playoff games in the second round. You're probably going to have to squeeze 2 on a Thursday, 2 on a Friday, 4 on a Saturday, or 2 on a Friday, and then overlap some of those 6 games on that Saturday. All that is true. MBM is not a lion. Thank you for the $20 holler, MBM. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for your generosity. I very much appreciate it. We've got Ricky Tungate, $10 holler super chat. MBM, spitting out truth. If this is it, get rid of early rankings. No. I'm sorry to disagree with you, Mr. Hoosier. The undisputed national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers. Ricky Tungate, I disagree. Not only will the early rankings not go away. By the way, the early rankings in a 2014 playoff will have less impact on setting the narrative. The early rankings, your early games are going to have less impact. This 2014 playoff is going to benefit the teams that get on a roll late in the season, right? There is more grace early in the season results. But it ain't, look, PATC, we're not getting rid of our way too early playoff. We're not getting rid of our way too early rankings. No way. This is our way too early rankings. Top 25 2026 football season. Number 1, Buckeyes, 2, Longhorns, Ducks, Hoosiers, Red Raiders, the Irish, the Hurricanes, the Bulldogs, the Cougars, the Tigers, Fight On Trojans, the Aggies, the Wolverines, Crimson Tide, Rebels, Cougars of Houston, the Sooners, the Cardinals, the Golden Bears, the Mustangs, the Hawkeyes, the Cowboys, the Arizona Wildcats, Illinois Fighting Illini, and the Volunteers of Tennessee. We're not going to get rid of rankings. In fact, I'll go one up on you, Ricky Tungate, and everybody else that doesn't like rankings. We're not getting rid of early rankings. In fact, we're going to expand the rankings. I can already hear you all booing. But this is what I put down on my X account. 2028, 2029 college football season, a 2014 playoffs. Out is the top 25 rankings. In is the top 30 rankings. Oh, my sweet Jesus. If you're going to have a 2014 playoffs, and it's all going to be predicated on the rankings, the playoff management rankings, the playoff committee. And before the playoff committee starts ranking, you're going to have the AP and the coaches poll and the PATC poll. It can't be a top 25. Top 25 isn't enough. You got to be able to see who is right on the cusp of getting into the 2014 playoffs. You can't have top 25 rankings anymore. That's gone. It's got to be a top 30 rankings. Or, dare I say, a top 35 rankings. And maybe that is why most of the national college football reporters, most of them are against the idea of a 2014 playoff because it's more work. It is more work for them for the rankings because you can't go with the 25. 25 is not good enough. It's not. Look at Dennis Dodd. Let me show you guys something here. Dennis Dodd, who's had no love for Tony Petitti. No love for the Big Ten. As long as I've watched and listened to him, and now he's retired, look what Dennis Dodd said today. Breaking from Pete Thamel. You may not agree with this detailed 2014 Big Ten playoff proposal obtained by ESPN and being circulated within the league, but it is well researched. Wow. Taken into account more on-campus games, planning around the NFL, keeping the season the same length, making up for lost conference championship game money would be huge, but kudos to Tony Petitti. This is, well, close to being brilliant. This is Dennis Dodd, ladies and gentlemen. Kudos to Tony Petitti. This is well close to being brilliant. I wish that the reporters would have been saying this a couple of months ago. I wish that the national reporters would have been picking this up when we picked it up here at Peek Around the Corner about a year ago, when we finally understood the brilliance of this. It is more brilliant with a 4-4-4-4-2-6. But alas, that doesn't seem to be what's going to happen. Unfortunately. So, some of the national reporters are warming up to it. Some of them. You're not quite getting the hostility of a 2014 playoff. You're not having Reese Davis say, this is absurd. Now, Josh Pate is still going to call it pathetic, but most of them, you don't see the hostility today, do ya? Do ya? Do ya? More about that later. Thank you, Ricky Tungate. Thank you for the $10 holler. I'm going to promise you all, you're going to have more rankings from PATC. We've got a 5 gifted memberships from RT. Let me see if I can figure out who got the memberships. VC Knoll, Mr. Seminole, Zach Mock, Don McCloy, Marquis Crenshaw, and Becky. Go Huskies. Mrs. Husky is in the house. Congratulations to the 5 who got a gifted membership. Please say thank you to RT. Say thank you to the generosity, and all of you are knighted. All of you are knighted officially. Cloak and Dagger. That means you can go to our library of episodes, watch all the episodes, including early peak Cloak and Dagger member-only episodes. And for those who want to become a member of our program, go to the description box below the video. There's a link provided. Hit the link and become a member. RT, thank you so much for your generosity. I very much appreciate it, sir. And you too, Larry Andrick, Mr. Mountaineer. My goodness. The Falcon Man, the Fulch Man received a gift membership. Fulch Man, when you get an opportunity, please say thank you to our legendary Mountaineer in the chat room, Larry Andrick, for his generosity. Both of you are knighted. Cloak and Dagger. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Larry Andrick. Thank you, RT. I very much appreciate it. Thank you, guys, for your generosity. We've got Evil Badger. We've got a super chat. The Evil Badger himself, Ryan Willet. Ryan Willet. I'd rather have a 32-team college football playoffs, especially if there's an infiltration of a ton of FCS teams. Chamberlain was a disaster during WW2. Yes, he was. I hope Tony Petitti's not the Neville Chamberlain of our times. He might be. He might be. We'll see what the Southeastern Conference does. Thank you, Eva Badger. Thank you for your generosity, for your $5 holler. Now, Karan Shakar, he is voicing an opinion that a lot of people would agree with them. You want SEC to lose value in the regular season schedule so the Big Ten can gain value in the playoffs. Wow. Karan Shakar. Let me go through a quick roll call here. Don Scruggs is in the house. The Big Gun Shop, Jay Chapman, Vox Quindaro, Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk, Zero Wiz, the Spartan is here. Smile Time is here. Jose is here. Craig Smoke was just saying he doesn't like 24 because only media makes more money. If the media is the only one making more money, then the teams are not going to go with this, right? This is going to be in concert. This is going to be in concert with the media companies. And look, if they go to 24, and we're going to talk about it in Pete Thamel's article, there's going to be more games that are open for bid, and the ESPN will not have control of those extra games. We're going to go from 11 to 23. Out of those 12 extra games, ESPN is only going to be able to control 2 of those. About 10 games, as of right now, would be up for bid. And if they're going to be up for bid, that's going to be more money in the pockets for everybody. So I don't agree with Smoke, even though I like him very, very much. Dead.io is in the house. The Great Trojan is here. Christopher Mercado, Stephen Vitt, and Twan Johnson. This new iteration is better for the Big 12. I don't know about it. It would have been better last year. I don't know. But we're going to talk about it. Movie Time Blues is in the house. Vox and NBC whispered in Petitti's ear. Fox is not whispering. They're yelling in Tony Petitti's ear. And that might be a big reason why Tony Petitti, again, takes another step toward compromise with the Southeastern Conference. Eventually, we're going to get to it, and we're going to talk about, will the Southeastern Conference agree to this, or will they back off once again? Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. The college semester is typically 16 weeks. We're going to go through the schedule on that. It's in the article. Stephen McNeely is in the house. Robert Skies is in the house. Who else is here? Who else has come on board? Mountaineer Memes, thanks for coming on in. The Big Ten is like a crazy person talking to themselves at this point. That is me. You got to believe, Mountaineer Memes. You got to believe. First they laughed at us. No. First they ignored us. Then they laughed at us. And then they got pissed off at us. And then they started calling us names. And now they are listening to us. The Army of 24. The Army of 24. Jared Jones is in the house. The Buckeye Greg is here. Christopher Huda is in the house. Rich Austin. Jimmy Austin is in the house. Jansen Roberts. It's either 16 or 12. It's either 16 or... Rodney Richborg, go Tigers. Has been is in the house. Tony did not bend the knee. He flexed the compromised muscle to pave the way toward expansion. Most likely. John Dry is here. Robert Wright. AMAC. Thanks for everybody for coming on in. Bill Kokuza is in the house. All right. Now we've got a stack show, so we got to get to it, guys. We got to get to it. Man, I don't know what to get to first. Let's go to the Sacramento story first. Let's take a little bit of a break. We're going to go heavily into the college football playoff, 2014 playoff that Tony Petitti is starting to circulate. It's a compromise. Is it a compromise too much? Not enough? Did it hit the sweet spot? Is the porridge still too cold? Is the porridge getting too hot? Or is the porridge, the bowl of porridge, just right? Sources, Mac nearing vote on adding Sacramento State to the league as football-only member. Sacramento State's entry fee is expected to be more than $15 million. It's intensifying. It's intensifying. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports. Negotiations between officials from Sacramento State and the Mid-American Conference have intensified over an expansion agreement that is now nearing a vote from the league's president. And when they do vote, if they vote, it's going to pass. You don't vote if it's not going to pass, right? You don't even do it formally. You do it informally to see where it lies. And if he's going to get the votes, then you make the official vote. In deep discussion with the California-based FCS school for more than a week now, MAC executives are reaching the point of a final decision on a move that would bring a windfall to current member schools. Sacramento State's entry fee is expected to be more than $15 million. Multiple sources with knowledge of the potential agreement spoke to Yahoo Sports under the condition of anonymity. Officials at Sacramento State declined to comment. Those in the MAC also declined to comment, citing the standard policy of not discussion expansion. Sacramento State is in the midst of an aggressive effort to join an FBS conference, as detailed last week by Yahoo Sports. While many FBS leagues have rebuffed the proposal, such as the Mountain West, they're going with North Dakota State, and the Pac-12, MAC officials began exploring the possibility in an endeavor that has now reached more serious negotiations. The idea has been socialized with high-ranking administrators across the conference, and the decision by league presidents is expected in the coming days. If a deal is struck, Sacramento State would represent the second such FCS to FBS move this month in February. Following the Mountain West acquisition of North Dakota State last week, also a pricey decision. North Dakota State is paying $12.5 million to the Mountain West and another $5 million in standard FBS entry. The MAC has yet to release its 2026 conference football schedule. The league loses Northern Illinois this coming season and added a UMass last season to remain at 12 members. The conference also has upcoming negotiations with ESPN for its new television deal. Under the plan, Sacramento State's other sports would remain at Big West, a model, as it turns out, similar to Northern Illinois, which left the MAC to play only football in the Mountain West, with most other sports in the horizon. So, if the deal is struck, Sacramento State becomes the 13th football member of the MAC. The MAC has not released its football schedule yet. My question to you all is the following. Do you think Sacramento State is going to be the 13th football member? And if they are, is there a 14th willing and ready to hop on the MAC train to become the 14th member before the 2026 season? If a Sacramento State hops on a board, this often named rumor of Illinois State, could that be the 14th member? Could the 14th member be another West Coast FCS team? Could a 14th member be, Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky? Probably not. Definitely not for the 2026 season. If the MAC is going to 13, are they planning for a 14th? Maybe not in 2026, but in 2027 and beyond. Let me know what you think in the chat. I very much appreciate it. UC Davis. The MAC should go into a silo and do 12-game all-conference schedule. Okay. All right, let's get into the main story of today. Let's take a look at the brackets here. Again, this is part of the documents that is being spread around in the Big Ten. ESPN obtained this information. It was leaked to them. If it was last year, if we had the 24-team playoff last year, under the design plans of this 24-team playoff, this is what the playoffs would look like. USC versus Arizona. Alabama, James Madison. Texas, Tulane. Right? And again, in this playoff format, and we're going to read about it here in a moment, the first round games, you can have two teams playing each other from the same conference. But they do not want two teams playing each other that have played against each other already in the season. So the seeding will be adjusted. So we can't quite call it a straight seed, right? We can't quite call it that because there would be some adjustments. Let's take a closer look. Taking a closer look at what the first round games would have been. USC, Arizona. Alabama, James Madison. BYU, Houston. Again, they're both Big 12 teams. Both of them are Big 12 teams. But they did not play each other, so they can play in the first round of the playoffs. Texas and Tulane. The winner of USC and Arizona would play Indiana in the second round. The winner of Alabama, James Madison, would play Oklahoma in the second round. The winner of BYU, Houston, would play Oregon in the second round. The winner of Texas and Tulane would have played Texas Tech in the second round. And by the way, USC would have had a home game against Arizona. Alabama would have had a home game against James Madison. BYU would have had a home game against Houston. Texas would have had a home game against Tulane. Not only that, but Indiana would have a home game, which they did not have in their run for the national championship. Indiana would have a home game against the winner of USC Alabama. Again, Oklahoma would have played at home against Alabama, and that's what happened, and they lost. Oregon would have had a home game against BYU Houston. Texas Tech would have had a home game against Texas and Tulane. You take the other side of the bracket. Utah, Michigan. Utah would have had a home game against Michigan. Miami would have had a home game against Iowa. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish would have been in the playoffs. They should have been in the playoffs, just like BYU, just like a lot of these teams. Because 12 is not big enough. 16 is not big enough. Notre Dame, home game against Georgia Tech. Vanderbilt, home game against Virginia. And then the winner of Utah and Michigan would have played the Buckeyes. You could have had a Michigan-Buckeye second round game. Again, the first round, the rules would be you cannot play a team you've already played in the regular season. But in the second round, of course, you can play somebody that you've already played. Miami, Iowa, the winner would go against Texas A&M. Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, the winner against Ole Miss. Vanderbilt, Virginia, the winner against Georgia. All right, those are the brackets of what it would look like last year if we would have had this 2014 playoff. The little general Mireya Hernandez Garcia Flugar, the moderator, the one who rules with an iron fist, who is visiting her family in Mexico City, has dropped on in. She's keeping an eye on all of you. She's keeping an eye on all of you, and she's keeping an eye on me. All the way from Mexico City, the little general is being the general. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you, honey, for dropping on in. I very much appreciate it. Okay. Let's get to the article now. Pete Thamel. The Big Ten is circulating an internal document that lays out what a 24-team college football playoff would look like, including the elimination of conference championship games, a 23+1 selection model, an additional weekend of on-campus CFP home games, which is really enticing. You have 16 on-campus home games instead of 4 in the current version. With the college football playoff format remaining at 12 for the 2026 season, the drumbeat of potential CFP change will inevitably echo through the upcoming season. The document obtained by ESPN includes other interesting details, such as the committee being tasked with not having any rematches in the first round. That's what we've been talking about here. The sides of the potential expansion issue were drawn clear in recent weeks. The Southeastern Conference was willing to go to a 16-team format. The Big Ten was willing to grow to 16 only, with an agreement to eventually go to 24 teams. Those two leagues essentially control the CFP decision-making, hence the stalemate. The Big Ten internal document details what the conference has termed 24-team CFP format compromise. Compromise. This is Tony Petitti. This is Tony Petitti's peace offering to the Southeastern Conference. Tony Petitti's not trying to compromise with the Big 12. He's not trying to compromise to the ACC because he has to compromise with the Southeastern Conference if they want to not split away from each other. Let's get it done, Southeastern Conference. Peace for our times. 24-team CFP. Sources told ESPN it has been distributed to leagues' athletic directors and a working group of head coaches. While the document presents nothing formal or official in terms of the future of college football playoff, it does begin to unpack the vision of the 24-team CFP. The idea has increased in conversation among coaches and athletic directors in the Power Four leagues as the coaches acknowledge a playoff or bust pressure. And athletic directors want more postseason opportunities to justify rapidly increasing roster expenses. Yes! 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 Yes. The internal document begins by offering a potential timeline desired by the Big Ten, which wants the format to go to a 16-team playoff for 27 and 28. The document then indicates a move to 24 no later than the 2029 season, which would run through the end of the current CFP contract through 2031. From there would be a new television contract and further flexibility to change. Yeah, further flexibility to change. Like, I don't know, silos? The Big Ten, they want a commitment from the Southeastern Conference. Okay, we'll go to 16 for a couple of years, but then we go to 24 for 2029. In the proposed 16-team format, there would be 5 automatic qualifiers and 11 at-large bids, an idea that has been widely discussed. The top 2 teams would get byes in the opening games, number 16 versus number 13, number 14 versus number 15, would be played on the second weekend in December, likely sliding around the annual Army versus Navy game. Then there would be 6 second-round games on campus, 4 quarterfinals at traditional bowl locations on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. That would be followed by semifinal games at both sites and national title game, which would finish around mid-January. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. You all know that I like the 24 better than 16. It just so happens I think they picked the worst 16-team playoff format. They're picking a double bye for the top 2 seeds. That is absolutely horrendous. If you're going to go to a 16-team playoff, do it 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, 3 versus 14. To have that 16 versus 13, 14 versus 15, and a double bye for the top 2 seeds, I think borders on absolutely ridiculous. So, look, I'm for the 24 over the 16, but they're making it really easy for me to be for the 24 over this 16-team playoff format because the double bye is absolutely, in my opinion, just a ridiculous way of setting that up. All right, back to the article. I'll get to this point in later on, Jose. The 24-team format would comprise the 23 best teams and 1 spot for the group of 6. There would be no automatic qualifiers in this system, which had been the point of emphasis for the Big Ten in CFP discussions last year. So the Big Ten is willing to give up the 4-4-4-4-2-6. If the field grows to 24, if the playoff format goes to 24, sources have indicated the automatic qualifiers would matter less to the Big Ten. The Big Ten is willing to give that up. Compromise. According to the document, the breakdown for this field, if it played out in 2025, would have been 7 SEC teams, 6 Big Ten teams, 5 Big 12 teams, 3 ACC teams, and 2 Group of 6 and Notre Dame. In this 24-team playoffs, the top 8 teams would receive byes. there would be 8 first-round games on campus. That's 9 through 16. Then an extra week of home games with 8 second-round games played on campus. That would be seeds number 1 through 8. That would mean all the top teams would be rewarded with a home game, unlike that 16-team playoff format that the SEC wants, which has been considered a flaw of the current system. Indiana, for example, didn't play a home game in this CFP. The optimal window to start the 2014 playoffs would be the second weekend in December, which would have Friday and Saturday away from NFL competition. So that goes back to MBM's Super Chat. This format is an attempt to schedule around the NFL competition. The optimal window to start the 2014 playoffs would be the second weekend in December, which would have a Friday and Saturday away from NFL competition. It would address the long rest period that has emerged early in the 12-team playoff model. Teams with byes and extended layoffs went 1-7 in the first 2 years of the CFP. The quarterfinals would fall on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day at both sites. Once you get through once you get through the second week of December, first round home games, seeds 9 through 16. Once you get through the next weekend of home games on campus, seeds 1 through 8. Then you get to the quarterfinals. Then you get to the New Year's 6 bowl games. The quarterfinals would fall on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day at both sites, and the semifinals would be the following week at both sites. That would be followed by mid-January title game at a neutral site. And then you can hop in and open up the transfer portal if you want, going into the third week of January. In this proposed 2014 model, the preference is that no regular season rematches would be permitted in the first round, but games between league foes could be played if they did not play in the regular season. This transition to a 24-team format would include the elimination of conference title games, and the incremental timeline to get to 24 teams in 2029 would give appropriate remedies for moving away from them. The internal document also gives a window into how the Big Ten views the conference title games, calling them artificial. The Big Ten now views the conference title games as artificial, in saying that the leagues who play them take on a way more risk than those who don't. Notre Dame, and still advance to the college football playoffs. Miami last year. How the CFP would handle making up for the cost of the conference title games would be one of the biggest looming issues. The Power 4 championship games have a media value of at least $200 million. And that figure represents only a television valuation. It doesn't account for the tens of millions that the games would account for with tickets, sponsorship, and game day sales. The financial trick of a 16-game playoff, if the sport were to eventually divorce itself from conference title games, is that it would add 4 games, only 2 of which would be up for bid to bring in new money. So again, that 16-team playoff not bringing in a whole lot more money. And if you're gonna divorce yourself from the conference title games, that 16-game playoff, man, I don't think that's the answer. Don't think that's the answer. Essentially, there's no way to make up the financial delta from losing the league title games. Moving to a 24-team model would mean 10 additional games up for bid. There would be 23 total games, up from 11 in a 12-team format. ESPN would own 2 of those 12 new games. So 10 would go out for open bid. 10 of them. 10 of them. The document includes some rationale behind the move. It stresses the sustained interest of a longer playoff and prioritizes home games on campus, and the elimination of risk of injury in conference championship games, citing Hoosier quarterback Fernando Mendoza injury scare in the Big Ten title game. And finally, the Big Ten document stresses the uptick in relevant regular season games, saying in today's transfer portal player movement era, teams may lose a game or two early and gel together later in the season. More playoff opportunities late provides an appropriate safety net. So there is Tony Petitti's plan. I don't think Notre Dame will ever join the conference. They'd rather die poor. Notre Dame is never going to leave their quasi-football independence over the question of playoff access. It doesn't matter what playoff format you all create. What Petitti... the Irish are always going to have playoff access as a quasi-football independence. That's not what's going to move them. What's going to move them is the complete devaluation of the ACC if they get poached, or if the SEC goes in the silo, and then the Big Ten goes in their silo. So the playoff access is not one of those reasons. Anyways, do I like this as much as the 4-4-4-4-2-6? No. Because I believe the 4-4-4-4-2-6 increases the value of conference games as you look for the conference races, the top 4 in the Big 12, top 4 in the ACC, top 4 in the SEC, top 4 in the Big 10, and those conference standings would go to the playoffs. The 4-4-4-4-2-6 enabled there to be big-time non-conference games, because there'd be 2 bites at the apple to try to get in the playoffs. Either in a large, where there's going to be 6 at-large bids, and if you win a big non-conference game, you can get to the playoffs as an at-large team if you do not finish in the top 4 of your conference. This 1+23, they're calling it, it doesn't really, it's not going to drive the incentive to play a tough non-conference game. It's not. It's not. And you're going to have the committee decide everything here. They're going to decide all except for one, and they're probably going to decide that one G6 representative. But basically the committee is deciding all 24 spots and their seedings. That's not the direction that we wanted to go. That's not the direction that Tony Petitti wanted to go. But the Southeastern Conference is not budging. They don't want the large AQ model. They don't want it. They don't want it. You've got the Southeastern Conference. You've got the president of Georgia talking about, looks like we may have to go our own way. They go in their own silo. You've got SEC reporters talking about it openly, writing articles openly about the possibility. This is the Big Ten's attempt, a compromise. They're calling it the compromise. The document is called the compromise, a 24 CFP compromise. The Big Ten is saying to the Southeastern Conference, the AQs wiped away. As long as we get to 24 teams, the AQs wiped away. That should benefit the Southeastern Conference, correct? The Southeastern Conference should want that happen, correct? But here is the poison pill. The Southeastern Conference is, they're just not into us. The Southeastern Conference don't trust anybody. The Southeastern Conference is seriously looking at going its own way. The Southeastern Conference is they are more comfortable with a 12-team playoffs for the next couple of years until they see where all this settles. If the Congress codifies the House versus NCAA, they don't want a 24-team playoff. They don't want this large playoffs, not because they think it's not going to work, because they know it's probably going to work. That is my strongly held opinion. You're going to get more value for the Big 12. You're going to get more value for the ACC. You're going to get more value for the Southeastern Conference. You are. The battle at the end of the season last year, Tennessee, Missouri, who's going to make it? You're going to have more Southeastern Conference battling to get to the 2014 playoff. You're going to have more SEC teams play first round, second round, campus, home games, playoff games. Southeastern Conference is going to make more money overall. They're going to make more money, more exposure. Now, some of those Southeastern Conference playoff games, some of those playoff games might be played under the Fox umbrella or the Netflix umbrella or the NBC umbrella or CBS umbrella or Amazon umbrella. And maybe they don't want that. Maybe they don't want Tennessee versus Arizona on Amazon. First round playoff game. Maybe they don't want Alabama visiting Michigan on Fox in a playoff game. Maybe they don't want Minnesota going in Gainesville, Florida, being on NBC. Maybe they don't want that. Maybe that loses a little bit of value for the overall for ESPN. I don't know. But this is what the Southeastern Conference wanted. They did not want AQs. This is what the Big Ten wanted. They wanted AQs. This compromise has no AQs in it. The schedule sets up pretty well. There really isn't more game. Look, people talk about the wear and tear of the student athletes. You're eliminating the conference championship games. You're adding 17 through 24. Those teams would be playing a bowl game anyways. They're not playing a bowl game. It really is not added wear and tear if you really look at it. The schedule's more condensed. Maybe sometime we can readjust the calendar to go backwards a little bit, to go more into August. That's a good idea. That is a good idea. A PATC rendition. You can go your own way. I'm going to think about that. Christopher Huda, $2 holler super chat. Greg, no AQs, and you were knocking the 5 plus 19. I was. And I don't like the 123. Now I'm going to reverse the question back to you, Christopher Hooter. Do you want this? Isn't this what you wanted? No AQs. No. We can't have 24 teams in the playoffs. We got to have everything set up just perfectly for the Southeastern Conference, where we can't see all these Big 12 teams. We can't see all these ACC teams. We can't see an Iowa team. We don't want an 8-4, 9-3 Iowa team in the playoffs. By the way, Iowa lost to Oregon by 2, Indiana by 5 last year. And you saw what Oregon did. You saw what Indiana did in the playoffs. You saw what Iowa did to Vanderbilt in the bowl game. Here's my thing. People keep saying we really don't have to go beyond 16. Just take the best 16. If you could convince me that anybody would be smart enough to be able to take the top 16, I would agree with you. But I don't believe any of you are smart enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't think Josh Pate is smart enough. I don't think anybody's smart enough. I think we got to take the top 24 to make sure we got the top 16. Miami barely made it in. They very easily could not have made it into top 12 playoffs. We had a whole bunch of argument from a whole bunch of national football reporters saying we don't have to go more than 4. We don't have to go more than 8. There's no teams above the top 8 that can win the national championship. Baloney. Miami almost won the national championship. Notre Dame did not make the playoffs. BYU did not make the playoffs. Vanderbilt did not make the playoffs. Texas did not make the. These teams were good. Some of them were getting better at the end of the season. They've all could have made a run. Most of them could have made a run. We don't know. And it just so happens that the number 24 works a lot better than the number 16. And another thing. We talked about how the Southeastern Conference, why don't they, what would be the reason they would not want to do this? What would be the reason? What would be the reason? It can't possibly be that the Southeastern Conference doesn't want the competition in the playoffs. We know that Southeastern Conference wants competition. What's the reason for the Southeastern Conference not to agree with this? We know, according to Ross Dellinger's reporting, that the Southeastern Conference looked at a 32-team playoffs, and there was support in that. No AQ model. Ross Dellinger reported that on his podcast. So why wouldn't the Southeastern Conference be for a 24-team playoffs with no AQs? I happen to think it's because the Southeastern Conference doesn't want to sign on anything. They don't. They want to keep their exit hatch open. They want to keep that exit hatch available. They want to keep that exit ramp clear. They don't want to put things on their exit ramp. They don't want a 24-team playoff signed to 2031, 29, 30, and 31 on that exit ramp. They don't want a 24-team playoff success. They don't want huge upsets in the first round. They don't want Cinderella stories. They don't want other bidding from Amazon. They don't want this change. They want to keep that exit ramp. They want to keep that exit ramp to that silo open just in case. And the Big Ten is like, here's another step in your direction. We just want the 24-team playoffs. You can have it your own way. And why is the Big Ten willing to do this? Why is the Big Ten willing to do this? Because the Big Ten wants to satisfy their media partners and future media partner. They want those playoff games to be an open bid. And the Big Ten wants to be able to tell the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Michigan Wolverines, the Penn State Nittany Lions, the Oregon Ducks, and now the Indiana Hoosiers. The Big Ten want to be able to go to those football programs, football teams, administrators, and presidents and say, you know, in a 2014 playoff, that's going to grease the skids for us to finally achieve what we want to achieve, and that is to expand the conference into the southeastern part of the country for a more diverse, more student population to get into the markets of the Southeastern Conference. It's easier to sell a 20-team conference in a 2014 playoffs than to sell a 20-team conference in a 12-team playoffs, in a 16-team playoffs. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think the Southeastern Conference is going to agree with this compromise? This is a step towards the Southeastern Conference. If the Southeastern Conference doesn't bite on this, if the Southeastern Conference doesn't agree to this, what do you think that means? There is no more room for the Big Ten to compromise. They're not going to agree to a 6. They're not going to do that. What do you think it means if the SEC says no to this compromise? And I got to be honest. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Before we open up the phone lines. My message to Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips. You should have publicly supported the 444426. You should have done that. You should have done that in public. You did not. You failed. You failed. This 2014 playoffs, which I think is worse than the other version. But if you don't come out and publicly support this, what are you doing? What are you doing? Honestly. If Yormark doesn't come out and support this, if Phillips, what are you doing for your conference? What is your job? Seriously, like, are you incompetent? You've got to come out and support this. You do not want this. You, at some point in time, you've got to lean on the Southeastern Conference. Get off of Tony Petitti's back. He's been carrying your water for you. Lean on the Southeastern Conference. Say, this is best for the sport. This is best for the sport. Come out in public and support this. There is no more excuses. No, I don't want, they're playing 5D chess. The chessboard isn't even out there, ladies and gentlemen. This ain't about chess. This is about competency. If you don't come out and support this, I don't know what the hell you're doing in your jobs anymore. I don't care how many glass basketball courts and LED lights. I don't care what you do. You have got to make the 24-team college football playoffs as part of college football culture to bind us all together, just like what the March Madness has done for college basketball. It has binded conferences together, 30-plus conferences together. You've got to bind the Power Four together, because if they don't bind together, behind a 2014 playoff, the Southeastern Conference is going to go its own way, and they're not going to be the ones that suffer. Now, I know what I'm going to get next. I know what I'm... Greg. He's trying to rile everybody up. He's using emotion. He's gaslighting. Whatever these words mean, I don't even know what they mean. Greg. Can't he just talk calmly? Can't he just be like everybody else and be monotone and professional and NPR and blah, blah, blah? No. I'm trying to keep us together. I don't want the silos. Tony Yormark and Phillips, if you don't come out and support this in public, and I'm not expecting this is like an unofficial leak, whatever, but when this is formally cast by Tony Petitti, if you do not come out and support this idea, after dropping the ball in the 4-4-4-4-2-6, you both should leave office. The same thing I said about Kevin Warren. He should leave office. You too should leave office. Because what good are you? That is my strongly held opinion. I want to hear more about what you guys think. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Greg, please stop yelling at us. Sorry, I'm not yelling at you. Well, I guess I am. Phillips should have been gone. Yormark with another home run. Yormark is too busy with the LED lights. What did I miss? Stop devaluing September and October. You're not going to devalue them.
Call from
Patron, the floor is yours. Tell me what I got wrong. Tell me what Sankey's got right. Let it rip.
Well, Greg, I don't know if, one person has it right or one person has it wrong. You talk a lot about, we got to bind ourselves together.
Yeah.
But, the way these guys see it is, Sankey's got to do what's best for his league. Petitti's got to do what's best for his league. And there's really nobody that's looking out for college football as a whole. I think in the chat, actually, somebody had mentioned Live Golf. It kind of reminds me of that, Greg. I don't know if you're familiar with the Saudi Golf League, Live.
Yeah. A little bit, yes.
It kind of reminds me of that. Yeah, I'm not even super familiar with it myself, but, kind of like a partition of the sport where you're going to have two competing products, right? In this case, three with SEC, Big 10, Big 12, I think. And they're going to be sort of competing, leagues. And what does all this mean? Greg, there's something I've been thinking about, especially the way that you talk about it, keeping everybody together. It kind of reminds me, Greg, I don't know if you've ever seen, sometimes there will be these relationships, you'll know a couple maybe where the man and woman, they're married, but maybe things aren't going so well and maybe they're thinking about divorce. But then, maybe the woman says, hey, if we have kids, if we start a family, things will change. Maybe I can trap him into this marriage by having one kid or two kids and things will change. Have you ever seen this type of situation, Greg?
Yeah, yes.
Or you're ever familiar with it?
Oh, yeah.
And maybe sometimes, okay, they have the family and things work out and they live happily ever after. But unfortunately, oftentimes, Greg, what you see is they have the kids and things really don't change. And both partners end up kind of being miserable. And it's kind of, the kids are in an uncomfortable situation and oftentimes they can suffer. Parents are fighting and the parents, they feel trapped in the relationship. They got to stay together for the kids. And then you look at these situations and you think, man, maybe they should have just divorced before they had kids to begin with. if they couldn't get along, if they weren't really into each other, if they couldn't agree with how they wanted to run their household, maybe they should have just gotten a divorce to begin with. And with the way that you sort of lay out the debate between SEC and Big Ten here, kind of reminds me of that. The 2014 playoff, the 16-team playoff is kind of having your first kid or second kid, and then you want to take it to 24-team and create the whole family together. And I think the SEC is looking at it and saying, hey, as you mentioned, we're just not that into you. We kind of prefer being on our own. Like, we don't mind being single. And the Big Ten is trying to compromise and say, hey, let's keep the family together. Let's be married. And I think probably, Greg, the divorce is probably a good thing. Kind of like pro-silo. But I'll keep it short and sweet on Friday the 13th, man.
Okay, yeah.
Hope you have a good weekend, Greg.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate
We'll talk
the
to you
call,
later.
Patron. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know. I get what Patron is saying. He used one analogy. I'm going to use a different analogy. But I do understand what Patron said, and I appreciate him calling.
Call from
Hello, Rick?
Rick, can you hold on for just one moment, please?
Oh, you bet.
I just got to get this out of my brain here. I'm going to use a different analogy. If let's say we've been having an NCAA men's and women's basketball tournament, and for the last since Larry Bird and Magic Johnson played in the NCAA championship game in 1979, Michigan State in the Indiana State Sycamores. Let's say that we have stuck to what how many teams were there? 32, or I don't think there was 32 at the time. Let's just say 16. I don't know if it's 16 at the time. It might have been more. But let's just say there was a 16-team NCAA playoffs in 1979. And let's say it never grew. It never grew. It just stayed that way. And then you're asking today, people are bringing up the idea, hey, let's have a 64-team NCAA basketball tournament. Let's have a 68-team. People would think you're nuts. They wouldn't do it. There's no way the Southeastern Conference, the Big 12 and everybody, no way. They would say, no, that's outlandish. We know how successful the 64-team NCAA tournament has been now at 68. We know how it captures the nation. We know how valuable it is. I don't think we would be smart enough to do it now. I think everybody is too much in their own silos, so to speak. It kind of reminds me of, and I don't like talking, I'm not talking politics here. I am. I'm talking more political science. People often say we should have a convention, a convention to figure out our Constitution. Our Constitution had flaws, right? Some major flaws when it was first created. Like, some of us were only considered 5/8 human. Like, we had deep sins in our Constitution, how we created this country. But there was a lot of genius in as well. Imperfect people building an imperfect union. We had this balance of power between large states and small states in building the Senate and the House. And sometimes I feel like if we would just start in our country today, would we be smart enough to build those balance of powers in our system? It's a bad analogy. I know it is. It's apples to oranges. I know it is. But I feel like the only way that we can bind enough this college football landscape together is to build out a large college football playoff format, and I think that would do it. But the problem is not all of us are sold on wanting to be together anymore. That's the major problem. And I think we're going to find that out pretty quick. Rick, thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
Well, I'm going to take some of the passion and emotion out of this.
Got it.
We do that. We do that for a bit.
You got it, buddy. You do whatever you want. The floor is yours, sir.
If Greg Sankey and the SEC don't want anything, not one thing to change regarding the playoffs from now until the end of the contract,
Yeah.
nothing changes, right?
Yep, nothing changed. Yep.
You got total control.
Yes. The SEC, yes. They don't want to compromise. No change will happen.
Period.
Yep.
And if they want to have no change whatsoever and go into their own silo,
Yep.
nobody can stop them.
I don't believe so. No. That's my opinion.
I agree. Well, there you have it.
Hello.
Yeah. There you have it.
So that means, so what you're trying to say is you believe the SEC has no reason to compromise because they want to go silo. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not exactly. What I'm saying is you can come up with any type of proposal you want and wrap it around as much emotion as you want.
Yeah.
And convince as many Big Ten, ACC, Big 12 commissioners, ADs, coaches, anything you want. And it doesn't matter.
You are correct.
Thanks for taking my call.
You got it. I appreciate it. Rick is correct. That's the truth of it. It doesn't really matter. Great call by Rick. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter.
Call from
Christopher Hooter.
Christopher Hooter, can you just hold on for one moment, please?
Sure.
I appreciate it. It doesn't really matter if the Big Ten does get the ACC and Big 12 on board. Not really. It doesn't. But my God, I don't want to say these phrases, but have some testicular fortitude. Like, you got to do what's best for the conference, your Mark. Going to 24, even in this, is better than staying at 16. The data is going to prove it over and over and over again. You want more teams in the playoffs. You want more exposure. You want more home games for Big 12. The Big 12 has won one playoff game in its existence. You need more representation. Now, emotions, again, ain't going to play a part of it. The SEC is not going to budge just because I'm being emotional and just because Brett Yormark pounds the table for the 2014 play format that Petiti just is going to present. But Brett Yormark cannot lose the crowd. He cannot lose the Big 12 presidents. He cannot lose the Big 12 fan base because right now he's losing them. You can see it in the chat room. You can see it in the message boards. You can see it on X. More and more Big 12 people are going, what the hell is going on? Why isn't he jumping up and down? And he's a seller, right? He sells things. Why isn't he selling this larger college football playoff format that is only going to benefit the Big 12, not hurt the Big 12? It doesn't make any sense. There's a cloak and dagger thing going on that I don't understand. I don't. Christopher Hooter, the floor is yours.
Well, howdy, Greg. Been a couple days. How you doing?
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. You know what I'm doing right now? Louisiana, hint, hint. There's a boil involved.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
A crawfish boil.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No
there we
cheese.
go.
That's good. That's good.
No, that's correct.
Real food. Real food. That Cajun, you don't put cheese on your meats down there. Of course you don't. You know how to eat.
Well, certainly not on on seafood or fish. No.
Yeah.
Sure
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
So, a good program. A couple thoughts. The goofy 16 with the goofy bye, right, as opposed to a clean 16. And then the 24 with, what was it, 10 out for network bids?
Yeah, and then the two additional ones would be controlled by ESPN. The other 10 would be out for a bid, which ESPN can get some of them or all of them if they bid enough. Yep.
Well, you put those two together, especially the 16, which was bizarre, the double bye, right?
Yeah, I think
But
it's just ridiculous. Yeah.
ESPN may not have the inventory space.
Well, they're giving it to TNT. They're sub-licensed it, so
Oh, I mean, if they had the space, why would they want a double bye?
I don't understand that. I don't understand the double buy thing. I don't get
that's
that
a
at all.
disadvantage.
That you don't need to do that. I don't get it. I think it's dumb. God, do I think it's dumb. For so many reasons. First of all, the top two teams are getting a double bye, and do they even want the double? I mean, because they're gonna have a longer layoff than your third seed and fourth seed teams, and I think it's ridiculous.
What is it? 3 weeks? 4 weeks? What's the layoff?
I just
It's a long time, right?
yeah.
Okay, so I was in and out cooking crawfish and whatnot. So okay, so on the 24, did we keep the conference championship games or did we punt on them?
On the 16,
The 24.
the 24, the the championship games are gone. And according to this ESPN article, it sounds like even in the 16, the championship games might be gone because it went into a couple of paragraphs of how a 16-team playoff probably isn't going to make up the difference of the Southeastern Conference losing its championship games, but a 24-team playoff could. So I don't know. I think the championship games are going to go away no matter what we do in the future.
Well, we talked about this before. The SEC has the highest rated, playoff conference championship or conference championship games. You'd have to compensate them somehow to let them make that up. So, but they're not going to want to do that. So they're going to want to go to 20 or 24. And he didn't say nothing about 20, did he?
Nope.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I don't know.
we'll see.
I guess if you don't have conference championship games, I guess I get the no AQs. I guess.
No AQs. No, I mean that is a step towards the Southeastern Conference. That's the olive branch that Petitti's given to Sankey. Look, okay, no AQs. Now what? Now what do you want, Southeastern Conference? Now what do you want?
Well, I mean, we joked about 5 and 19, but the 5 assumed the conference championship games kind of hung around, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess if they don't, then it's all at large, and you give the G6 one. So, I don't know. It could all just be, as Rick was kind of alluding to, it could all be about the silos and the SAFE Act and the SCORE Act and all that. Is any of that going to pass? Probably not.
Yep. Those are the
So,
planes
you know,
that are
that-
flying around.
Right?
Are
Maybe
they going
that's
to
what.
land? Or are they going to crash?
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the real smoke and dagger, right? I mean, maybe that's what really is going on behind the scenes. So, but if they go into their silo, can they still go to a playoff at the end?
That's a $1 billion question, right? If they go in their silos, can there be a college Super Bowl, right? SEC champion versus Big Ten champion, for example. I don't know.
Yeah, I tell you. Anyway, all right. Well, I'm going to go back to feeling my crawfish. They were cooked just right. The tail just comes right off. You bite into it. Anyway, I'll teach you
I'm
that
jealous.
next time. Okay.
I am jealous. Thank you, sir.
All right, man.
Great call.
You enjoyed it. Okay. Yeah,
Holy
bye.
smokes. Yeah, that food is awfully good. I'm very jealous. I'm sitting up here in Minnesota. There ain't no crawfish in my pot that's boiling right now. The little general is in Mexico City, so I'm not having any good food right now at all. The fat guy from Minnesota is getting depressed. He's getting hungry. I've actually lost a couple of pounds lately. That is not good. It's good for my health, but that's not good for my mental health. So I need the little general back. And there's another there's another thing that's going like I really don't want to go. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but you know, there's contingency plans all over the place. There's conferences gaming out everything. And the Big Ten, again, we've talked about it a couple of years ago when I reported to you that PJ Fleck has a 10-game conference schedule portion of his contract. In other words, PJ Fleck will make his bonuses depending on how many wins they get in a 9-game Big Ten conference schedule, but he's also got part of his contract a 10 conference game bonus part of his contract. So there's always been this like thought that the Big Ten would go to 10 conference games, potentially. And I have said over and over again, it's very difficult for the Big Ten to ever go to 10 conference games because if you go to 10 conference games, there are going to be years where you only have 6 home games in your football schedule because you're not going to be able to have 2 non-conference games being played at home every single year. So you would go 5-5, 1-1, 5-5, 2-0, but you're not going to have 7 home games in your football stadium like you do every year, and that is going to be a very difficult sell. That has been told to us at Peek Around the Corner forever. However, if the SEC ever decides to go in its own silo, then the Big Ten will probably, I don't know for sure, none of us do, but probably go in their own silo. And the Big Ten goes in their own silo, they may go to that 10 conference games and then have 2 non-conference games always be at home. Because they're not going to be playing the SEC teams, right? They can have 2 non-conference games against whoever, possibly, but they're gonna put their leverage and say, we'll pay you to come to a Big Ten stadium, so we're going to make sure we have 7 home games, 5 of them being conference opponents, 5 road games, and all of those 5 road games be a Big Ten opponents. We'll go down that rabbit hole later on this year in 2026 if the Southeastern Conference decides to pull the trigger. And if they do, I don't expect to happen until late 2026 or 2027. I don't think anything's imminent at all. But when you got the University of Georgia's President Moorhead talking about it in public in interviews more than one time in the last 2 months, well, we all got to be taking it seriously. So, anyways, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Big time show. It was absolutely stacked. Sacramento to the MAC conference, that is intensifying. Those talks are intensifying. Bill G, thank you for your generosity. MBM, Ricky, Tungate, Mr. Hoosier, RT, thank you so much. Larry Andrick, the Evil Badger, and Christopher Hooter. Great phone calls. Absolutely fantastic phone calls. Patron, Rick, and Christopher Hooter, crawfish and all that good stuff in a pot of boiling water. I want to thank you all. Jose, AZ Buckeye, thank you guys. Bob Swanger, Chris Kenny, thank you. Appreciate it. All of you. Antoine Johnson, thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. The Edward, the Auburn Tiger, thank you for coming on in. I appreciate it. Please, until next time, all of you take care of each other. And before you leave, please subscribe, ring that notification bell, smash the like button, and share the video. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family,